Your life after winning the $600 million lottery and telling absolutely nobody. You are sitting in a gas station parking lot at 11:46 on a Tuesday night. You bought the ticket because the jackpot was $600 million. And $600 million is the exact number that makes a person who never buys lottery tickets buy a lottery ticket. You don't know why that number specifically. The human brain has a threshold somewhere between lottery winnable and lottery winnable by me specifically, and $600 million crossed it tonight. You scratch the ticket with the edge of your car key. You check the numbers. Then you check them again. Then you check them a third time with the flashlight on your phone. As if better lighting will produce a different result, the numbers match. All 6 of them. Every single number in order. Your first thought is not joy. Your first thought is, I need to check this again. Your second thought is, I need to not tell anyone that I need to check this again. Your third thought is, I need to not tell anyone. Period. About anything. Starting immediately. Your brain has correctly identified the problem before your body has processed the win. You sit in the parking lot for 43 minutes. You do not call anyone. You do not post anything. You drive home with the ticket in your shirt pocket, which you will later realize is not a secure location for a $600 million piece of paper, and you do not sleep. The next 10 years of your life will be defined by one skill you never knew you had and did not practice for. The ability to have $600 million and seem like someone who does not have $600 million. The 24 hours when you cannot tell anyone anything. Day 1. You have had approximately 3 hours of something adjacent to sleep. The first call you make, before your mother, before your best friend, before anyone, is to a lottery attorney. Not because you are a particularly organized person, because you spent the 43 minutes in the parking lot Googling what to do if you win the lottery, and the first result said, call a lawyer before you claim the ticket in a font size that communicated urgency. The attorney's name is Janet. She answers at 8 a.m. in a voice that implies she has had this exact call before. From the parking lot, the shock, the I haven't told anyone yet. She has a whole process. There is a trust. There is a structure. There is a way to claim this that does not immediately make your name searchable alongside the word millionaire. Janet is very calm about everything. You ask Janet if you can tell your best friend. Janet pauses a shorter amount of time and says the same thing. You ask Janet if you can tell Janet. Janet laughs. This is the first laugh of your $600 million life and it belongs to your attorney. You go to work. Your desk looks the same. Your coworker Dave asks if you're okay. You say you didn't sleep well. Dave says he has melatonin in his drawer if you need it. You take 2. You sit at your desk with $600 million and melatonin in your system, and you open your email. Nobody around you knows yet. The entire world has continued without updating for you. This is simultaneously the most surreal and the most peaceful 8 hours of your adult life. The trust is formed. The silence begins. Week 1. The trust is formed. The ticket is claimed through it. Your name will not appear in the public records. You live in one of the 17 states where anonymity is legally possible through a trust structure. Janet has done this before. The documents are signed. The money will be in the trust's account in approximately 72 hours. You take the lump sum. After federal taxes, approximately $180 million arrives in an account held by Northwind Holdings, LLC. You are the sole beneficiary of Northwind Holdings, LLC. Northwind Holdings, LLC does not have a company picnic. The wire transfer confirmation arrives on your phone while you are in a team meeting about the third quarter projections. You just received $180 million. You have never been more professionally present in a meeting in your life because you are using all of your available cognitive resources not to look at your phone. You do not quit your job. Janet said not to. Not yet. Not suddenly. Nothing sudden. Sudden changes attract questions. Questions lead to answers you are not ready to give. You go home and research the specific brand of paper towels you have been meaning to try for 4 years and did not buy because of the price difference. You buy the paper towels. The first week of having $600 million feels remarkably like the last week of not having it. That's the secret. The secret doesn't change the texture of Tuesday. Tuesday is still Tuesday. It just has a different number in the background. The three decisions that define everything. Month 1. Janet has introduced you to a financial advisor, Marcus, who manages wealth for people who have too much of it to manage themselves. Marcus is not excited about you. He is professional about you. You will understand later that Marcus works with people who have significantly more than $180 million and that you are, to Marcus, a reasonably sized client. You find this oddly comforting. Marcus suggests diversifying into a specific index fund portfolio, municipal bonds, and a small allocation to alternatives. You nod. You have watched enough finance videos to understand the words. Marcus says yes, and it is the version that still works in 20 years. You remember a video you once watched about parking lot striping. You decide not to mention it to Marcus. Month 1 also involves a decision about where you live. Not moving, not yet, not suddenly. But the decision about whether to buy the apartment you've been renting. Janet says you can. Marcus says you shouldn't do it personally. Do it through the trust. The trust buys the apartment. To your landlord, it looks like a real estate entity purchasing the unit. Your rent payment stops. A property management company that is technically you begins to pay itself. Month 1 also involves Dave noticing that you seem different. Not dramatically, just slightly. He can't identify it. He mentions it on a Thursday. You seem less stressed lately. You tell him you've been sleeping better. He asks if you tried the melatonin. You say yes. Dave is the most dangerous person in your life right now. Not because he is suspicious, because he is observant. And there is nothing more dangerous to a secret than a person who pays attention. The point where silence becomes skill. Month 3. You have not told anyone. You lend your college roommate the $800 from your regular checking account because you cannot explain why you would say no to $800 anymore. Your regular checking account currently has $12,400 in it because you are keeping it exactly where it always was. You have moved no money from the trust into personal accounts because Marcus said not to. You need people to continue acting normally. The $12,400 is doing important work. Month 3 is also when you quietly quit your job. Not dramatically. You give 3 weeks' notice. You tell your manager you have some personal things to work through and a small inheritance from a relative that is giving you some breathing room. Your manager says that sounds nice. Dave gives you a card that everyone in the office has signed. The silence is not comfortable, but it is protective, and you are beginning to understand that protecting the number means protecting the life. The number changed. The life is still yours. Letting anyone know the number is handing them a partial claim on the life. The new life begins to become normal. Month 6. You have moved into a better apartment. Not a penthouse. Not a building with a doorman who knows your name on sight. A nicer version of what you had. The kind of upgrade that reads as doing a bit better rather than inexplicably wealthy. Marcus approved the amount. You have no idea what your apartment cost because Northwind Holdings LLC handles that now. You have given yourself a modest monthly personal budget and you live inside it. You still use the same grocery store. Dave finds you on LinkedIn. He has left the company too, apparently, 2 months after you. He messages you to say he got a new job and to ask how you're doing. You say you are doing well, taking some time, figuring out the next chapter. Dave says that sounds healthy. Dave then says he heard through a mutual colleague that you got some kind of inheritance. You say it was modest. Dave says that's still nice. You say yes. Dave sends a thumbs up emoji. You stare at the thumbs up for a while. Dave is fine. Dave is just a person in the world. Dave has no idea. The thumbs up sits there. The financial reality is fine. Better than fine. Marcus has the money in a diversified portfolio. It is growing. In month 6, the portfolio returns approximately $900,000. Roughly 5 times what you used to earn in a year. From its own size, without you doing anything. The $180 million has a second job that you never assigned it. The math is exactly what it always was. You just now happen to be on the correct side of it. The secret gets easier to carry as time passes. Not because it weighs less, because you get stronger. The first quiet victory. Year 1 year since the parking lot. The portfolio is worth approximately $195 million. You have contributed nothing additional. It grew on its own. The same compounding that works on $5 a day works considerably faster on $180 million for the same mathematical reasons. You have spent approximately $240,000 in the past year, which sounds like a lot until you remember that it represents 0.13% of the total, and the total grew by more than that in the first week of January alone. Your mother's birthday is in March. You want to do something meaningful for her? You cannot give her $2 million because she will immediately know something has changed and she will call your aunt, and your aunt will call your cousin, and your cousin will post something on Facebook, and you will have made an extremely expensive mistake. You instead give her a very specific gift, the thing she mentioned once, offhand, years ago, that she always wanted. Your mother cries a little. She says you didn't have to. You say you wanted to. Both of these things are true, and also each of them contains information the other does not have access to. Year 1 is also when you make your first anonymous charitable donation, through Janet's structure, to a specific cause that has meant something to you since before any of this. The amount is significant. The first year was about protection. The second year is about purpose. The difference between them is the difference between a secret and a strategy. Year 3, the portfolio is worth approximately $220 million after regular market growth, distributions, and the modest living expenses you've extracted. Dave has connected the dots. Not fully, but enough. You meet for coffee because Dave is a person you genuinely like, and 3 years is long enough for the initial paranoia to settle into something more relaxed. Dave mentions, around the 20-minute mark, that he looked up the lottery winners from your state from around the time you left your job. He presents this as a piece of trivia. He mentions that one of the winners claimed through a trust and was never publicly identified. He says this very casually, the way a detective in a television program says casual things that are not casual. You take a sip of your coffee. You say, You ask Dave about his new job. Dave talks about his new job for 11 minutes. You are the most attentive listener Dave has ever had. Dave leaves the coffee meeting feeling great about himself. Dave does not mention the lottery again. Dave knows. Dave will never say so. This is the unspoken agreement you have with Dave, which neither of you will ever formally acknowledge. Year 3 is also when you start doing things slightly more openly. Not the number, never the number, but the life the number supports. Quietly, modestly, deniably. You travel more, you work on things you care about, you sleep well, you donate regularly through structures that don't trace back to you. The secret doesn't get heavier. It becomes part of the architecture. You are no longer carrying $600 million. You are living a life that $600 million made possible, which is a lighter thing to carry. The only conversation that matters. In 10 years, exactly 4 people know. Janet knows, professionally and by necessity. Marcus knows, financially and by structure. Your mother, in year 8, you finally told. Because she is your mother, and because the year 8 reason was specific, and because Janet gave you a framework for telling one trusted person and your mother was the only candidate. She cried. She asked if you were okay. You said yes. She said she would not tell anyone. She has not told anyone. Your mother is, it turns out, remarkably good at keeping a secret when the secret is this size. Dave does not know. Officially. You have been getting coffee with Dave twice a year for 10 years. Dave has never mentioned the lottery again after year 3, but every time you meet, Dave has the same almost imperceptible expression when he looks at you. The expression of a man who has worked something out and decided that working it out is enough. Dave will take his theory to his grave. You will take your confirmation to yours. This is friendship adapted for unusual circumstances. Somewhere tonight, a different person is sitting in a gas station parking lot with a lottery ticket. The jackpot was $580 million. Close enough. They bought the ticket on the way home because $580 million is the amount that crosses the threshold for a person who never buys lottery tickets. They are scratching the ticket with their car key right now. They are checking the numbers. They are checking them again with their phone light. If the numbers match, and they probably won't because the odds are 1 in 292 million, which means this story applies to almost nobody and resonates with everyone. But if they do not tell anyone. Drive home. Find a fireproof safe or a very boring hiding spot. Call a lottery attorney in the morning, before your mother, before your best friend, before Dave. Tell Janet. Janet has seen this before. Janet will be calm. Janet's calm will not make you feel better initially. It will eventually become the most reassuring thing in your life. Trust Janet. And the trust. The $600 million is not the thing that changes your life. The decision of what to do with it in the first 48 hours is the thing that determines whether the change is the kind you wanted. Most lottery winners go broke within 10 years. Not because money is dangerous, because sudden, visible, announced money attracts forces that are better at removing wealth than you are at protecting it. The invisible version is the one that lasts. The quiet version is the one that compounds. The boring version, the trust, the advisor, the apartment that is nicer but not conspicuously nicer, is the version that works. You were never going to feel $600 million in your hands. You were only ever going to feel what $600 million was quietly turning your life into. The question was always what that life was going to look like, and the answer depended entirely on whether you told anyone.